Welcome to episode 85 of Central Intelligence Cinema. Today, Jason and I are hopping in a pair of XT7Bs and reviewing 1983's Never Say Never... Wait a minute. Jason, are you there?
I am.
Okay. Am I allowed to use the Bond open for this one? Because this is like an official but unofficial Bond movie. Do we know if this is really an official Bond movie? Can I use the open?
Well, you know, I think we're not going to know if this is an official Bond movie until we determine whether or not we can do the review in one sitting or two. Because as you know, if it's a James Bond review, it never goes less than 2 episodes.
This is very true. All right, well, I guess we'll see what happens, but this is Never Say Never Again. Without further ado, take it away, Pierce.
Beg your pardon, forgot to knock.
Welcome to the CIC, initiating security clearance.
Who are you?
Bond. James Bond.
Pussy galore.
Felix Leiter.
His name's Jaws. He kills people.
And Stavro Blofeld.
Identity confirmed.
Now, pay attention, 007.
Welcome to Central Intelligence Cinema, a podcast dedicated to spy movies and secret agent pop culture.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
You amuse me, Mr. Bond.
Do you expect me to talk?
Sorry, old man. Section 26, paragraph 5. Need to know. Sure you understand.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
Recording from an undisclosed location where Mr. Bean is using all available natural cover. It's a Central Intelligence Cinema podcast. I'm Jason Greenberg, and with me, as always, Ben Esslinger.
Thank you, Jason. And welcome back to the CIC, the spy movie podcast that has been tasked with eliminating all free radicals.
All free radicals.
But yeah, we are back. Welcome back to the CIC. So happy that the hiatus is over, Jason. We're back. We're feeling good. It's good to see your lovely face and hang out for who knows how long this will take to get through. But
I mean,
I'm excited.
It's not a whole Bond movie, but it's still a Bond movie. We all know how those go around here. So
right, it's a Bond, but not Bond, but kind of Bond, but sort of not Bond, but mostly Bond, but I don't know.
I mean, would it simply put to bed that it's not an actual James Bond movie if we could actually do the review in less than 2 hours?
It may. That may be the litmus test for whether it's a real Bond movie or not.
Can we post those results to the internet so that everyone can finally lay that question to rest?
Yes.
I can see it now. The 2 podcasters on the Central Intelligence Cinema podcast have laid to rest the question of whether Never Say Never Again is actually a James Bond movie. According to Agent Jason Greenberg of the podcast, who clearly states, because we were able to actually finish our review in 1 hour and 58 minutes, it clearly proves that Never Say Never Again is not an actual James Bond movie, because as longtime listeners will know, anytime we do a review of a James Bond movie, if it's less than 3.5 hours, we haven't been doing our job.
Indeed, yes. But in case you haven't figured it out yet, we are reviewing the movie that some consider unofficial, some consider very much official, some revere, and some treat like a redheaded stepchild. And I've of course, talking about Never Say Never Again. So, yeah, this will be interesting. It was this was a fun one because I don't think I ever have even watched this movie all the way through. I almost am embarrassed to say this as the podcaster for spy movies, but I don't know if prior to this podcast I ever watched this movie all the way through. Like, I've seen various bits and pieces, but like I'm not sure I ever watched it all the way through before until being tasked with reviewing it. And it was everything I kind of expected it to be.
If you were to take the whole James Bond piece out of this and just make it a spy movie with Sean Connery in it,
yeah,
it's a whole different thing, right? If you just lift all of the weight of 007, it's kind of an okay 80s spy movie in the style of James Bond.
You're not wrong about that, because then we would probably be able to look at it through a much different lens, just sort of
Oh,
this is just this silly spy shit. That
literally
that
on the masthead. This movie is literally our masthead. Just a silly spy shit movie. This and Top Secret are our masthead.
It really is, because it's just, I mean, it's got elements of 60s Batman. It's got, I mean, I'll say this, it doesn't have an underwater scene that's so long that I want to, like, take a nap in between.
It doesn't have stunt scenes that make you want to.
That may be the only thing that is better about it than Thunderball. But since
I don't know. Rocket launched jet platforms were kind of fucking cool.
The XT-7Bs.
Yes. I read the instruction manual from a Russian something shop.
Lovely. What an invention there. But yeah, it does. It feels like a silly, just if it didn't have the 007 thing linked to it, it would just be the chronicles of whoever this guy is. It's just
right.
50-something guy in fairly good shape and handsome makes his way through. Well, enough about that. Should we just get into this?
Yes, we absolutely should.
Sean Connery is James Bond, Agent 007. Never say never again.
My name's Bond.
Oh, you're Mr. Bond. I believe I'm having you in half an hour.
Oh, splendid. Your room or mine? You're marvelously well equipped.
Thank you, James. So are you.
Good to see you, Mr. Bond. Things have been awfully dull round here. I hope we're going to have some gratuitous sex and violence.
I certainly hope so, too.
Bond, the game is over.
Sean Connery is Ian Fleming's James Bond in Never Say Never Again.
Okay, Never Say Never Again, released in 1983, directed by Irvin Kershner, who did a little movie you may have heard of called Empire Strikes Back, as well as RoboCop 2 and On Deadly Ground. Michael D. Moore was the second unit director on this film, who also worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark and War of the Worlds and Willow. So a good second unit director. And I think that does help this movie to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
Not that they're working on the same level of budget that Spielberg or Lucas were using, but still, I think it definitely helped keep this thing from, I mean, if it was in worse hands, this movie would be unwatchable, probably.
No, absolutely. I mean, Kershner's like a real director, like a director.
Yeah.
He's not a genre director. And I think he brought a lot of talent along with him because he's Irvin Kershner.
Yes.
Particularly when we get to the DP credit on this, Doug Slocum. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the fact that you've got the guy who shot Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And you can see it in some of it. I mean, obviously, obviously, they didn't have the budget for like high-end lighting the way that the indie movies had, but it's still, they certainly did the most with what they had, I think.
Oh yeah, I think you see it most in the exterior shots, particularly the stuff in that castle towards the end.
Yeah,
you kind of got a vibe in that sort of old prison thing where he's up on the chains with all of the ghosts from the Well of the Souls. They probably pulled those out of the Lucas archives, sprinkled them all around like dead bodies. But there were some shots. Particularly, it was, and I'll be honest with you, particularly it was the action shots. So probably we're looking more at what Michael D. Moore was doing on those. They seemed just kind of flat and action-y. There wasn't any real depth of color or anything in this movie that made it feel like a choice. And I think it goes back to kind of like what you said, just there probably wasn't the budget to get fancy lighting setups and things like that. They had to go to get it knocked out.
I thought it looked pretty decent during the, well, it's not a pre-title sequence. It's after the titling, but it's that very first scene where Bond is storming this, it's like a training exercise or whatever, and he's coming up to that. That did have it did remind me of sort of the way that the indie movies looked if the indie movies were shot at a much lower quality of everything. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But it still had the technique there.
Oh, yeah. The way the cameras, where they were positioned and everything, it's just the lighting. Every time I see something that Doug Slocum does, it just feels like you're looking at a movie painting, right?
Yeah.
There's just a level of ambiance that he brings in most of his shots that didn't seem like it was in this. But it's also not the kind of movie that really lends itself to that in the first place.
No, especially
the whole idea of a Bond movie is to just move James Bond from one thing to another. It's not really about letting the backgrounds tell a lot of the story. And so there probably just wasn't a lot of opportunity for him to slow comb it.
Yeah, exactly. But, there is this big backstory to Never Say Never Again, which I am going to go into a little bit, but I know a lot of our tens of listeners probably know the story. But for those of you who may not have delved into what happened and how this movie got made and what its connection is to the rest of the Bond franchise, I'll try and do a brief, abridged version of the story. So basically, producer Kevin McClory, scriptwriter Jack Whittingham, and Ian Fleming developed a script for a potential Bond film to be called Longitude 78 West, which was subsequently abandoned because of the costs involved. Fleming, however, turned this into the novel Thunderball, for which he did not credit either McClory or Whittingham. So McClory then took Fleming to the High Court in London for breach of copyright, and the matter was settled in 1963. So after Eon Productions started producing the Bond films, it subsequently made a deal with McClory, who would produce Thunderball and then not make any further version of that novel for a period of 10 years following the release of the Eon-produced version in 1965, which is a weird agreement, but okay. And McClory kept up his end of the deal, because as soon as the time was up, he started working on Never Say Never Again. So then we fast forward and how that came about. You fast forward to the 70s, the mid-70s, McClory again starts working on a second adaptation of Thunderball with the working title Warhead. And at that point, he brought writer Len Deighton together with Sean Connery, actually, to work on a script. Yes, I can write too. So in the meantime, McClory won in court sole rights to the organization Spectre, as well as the character Blofeld, which also affected the movie The Spy Who Loved Me, P.S. and by the way, which probably explains why that's the weakest point, I think, of The Spy Who Loved Me is the villain in that movie.
Yes.
However, McClory did lose in a court case to move forward with Warhead due to going beyond copyright restrictions. So after that, producer lawyer Jack Schwartzman became involved with the project, and he decided against using Dayton's script for legal reasons. So he brought in 60s Batman writer and also the guy who wrote 3 Days of the Condor, Lorenzo Semple Jr., to write the script. And my goodness, does it ever show its ugly head all over the place in this film. For good and bad. For good and bad. And honestly, I don't even think it's so much the writing that makes it feel like 60s Batman. It's the music. The music. There's like that
and
moment.
The bad dancing. The bad dancing scene
and the
helps.
bad dancing. I just think about when he's in the villa, like looking for that junior agent.
Yep.
And then he goes chasing after Fatima, and immediately that bad Batman chase music kicks in, and I'm just like, oh my god, wow. But yes, the dance scene too. I was waiting for.
We could have had like James Bond, James Bond.
See, if they would have leaned into that might have been something. They might have had something there if they would have really like just took it there. Like completely comedicized it, then we might have had something.
Oh, if they'd done that, it would have been a Roger Moore movie. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Boy.
Here I go.
Wow. Wow. So I digress. So they brought in Lorenzo Semple Jr. to write the script. However, Connery was unhappy with parts of it, and he brought in British TV writers Dick Clement and Ian La Frenay. So at that point, the script went through nearly day-to-day changes, including the on-the-fly inclusion of one Rowan Atkinson for comedy relief, which I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like this movie started out trying to be a serious Bond movie.
Yes.
And wound up turning into we need to make a punchline at the end of every scene in this movie. That's what it feels like. It feels like it started serious, like they started with the ambition of making a serious, real Bond movie. And then as they went along, they're like, no, we got to punch this scene up. No, we got to punch this scene up. We got to punch this scene up.
I have to wonder if that was just all Sean on that one. Because I feel like...
You think so?
I feel like he was trying to lean really heavy into I'm an older agent, and what I'm doing is a little ridiculous. And that if you figure James Bond as a spy for 20 years, is just going to... He's seen everything, he's done everything. And at this point, he's just going to be like, are you fucking kidding me? And so instead of saying, are you fucking kidding me every time, he just has to make a joke. Because that's his psychological profile. He just jokes his way out of situations rather than actually dealing with the emotion behind it.
Right. Well, and you can tell, too, even in the way that they wrote a lot of the lines and stuff. There was some stuff in there that was specifically pointed at the fact that he was older in it. Like that scene when he's chained up in the castle towards the end and Largo's like, well, you were a very good secret agent. And he was like, yeah, I was, wasn't I? You know, that whole thing. It was all pointed at. There were a lot of like winky moments like that about his age.
Yeah.
So
that makes me feel like the whole aging out kind of thing was more Sean Connery than anything else.
Yeah.
Because he had to come back and be interested in it, right? He didn't want to do James Bond anymore.
Right.
So how do you make James Bond interesting? Same way you made Captain Kirk interesting again in Wrath of Khan. You kick them up to an age where they're sort of questioning their own mortality about things, and it puts a layer that's not in the normal action, adventure-y, spy-y, science fiction-y kind of thing, so that the actor at least has something to chew on. Some pathos going on in the background.
Absolutely. So it's not just, you're not forced to try and ignore something that's obvious there. So also one little tidbit too, this movie was originally titled James Bond of the Secret Service, but a court order ruled that it was too close to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So
how
honestly,
much did the fucking lawyers make on this movie? I bet you they made more than the movie made.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned earlier, Douglas Slocum did the photography, and then we had Ian Crawford, who cut Field of Dreams and Cheech and Chong Still Smoking. He was the editor on the movie, which is fine.
That explains a lot.
As far as music goes, music was horrible in this movie. But John,
it may go on record as the worst soundtrack we've reviewed so far.
It might be even worse than some of the real stinkers that we reviewed. This thing was
worse than No Way Out,
because everything was so miscued. Like it was so. It's like, what is the most diametrically opposed piece of music I can put in this scene? Put it there. So, yeah, John Barry was offered the job, but declined it out of respect to Eon. The composer they did get was Michel Legrand, who, funny enough, has Oscars for both Yentl and Summer of 42, and he did music on Best Friends and the 1968 version of the Thomas Crown Affair. So I don't get why it's so bad. Like, I wonder, I kind of wonder if it was the direction.
Maybe.
I kind of wonder if maybe he was led down a really bad path and he was like, well, I'm getting paid, so maybe I'll do, I don't know. It's all I know is it's this funky cornball thing that never seems to line up with what the tone should be.
there's no theme that runs through any of it.
No.
It's like randomly generated music for scenes.
Yeah. Well, I remember too, there's a moment in so the moment when Bond sleeps with Fatima and they start and the corn.
Oh, you
mean
the fish sex scene?
Yes, the fish sex scene. The corny saxophone comes in, but then but they just keep it going once they're actually scuba diving and puts him in peril. Like, the music never changes. It still stays that weird, sexy, doesn't match with what's actually happening on screen.
Here's what I think probably happened. I bet you because of what the budget was on this film, they went to Michel Legrand and said, look, we can pay you for 1 hour worth of music and one actual song. And we will pay you this amount of money. And they're like, we're not going to we need something actiony. We need something sexy. We need something sexy and actiony. And we need something to just carry the flow around while we're moving from scene to scene. And he's like, okay, I can do that. And he cranked it all out in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, got his check, and then they just edited it so poorly because there were no options that they just picked the music that worked best, probably in the editor's mind, and ran with it. It doesn't feel like a complete score.
No, not at all. Because there's a lot of action scenes too that play completely dry or not even and then even too there are moments, drama moments that should be punctuated with music that are not or no. Wildly incorrectly punctuated.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was just a case of Irvin Kershner suffering from John Williams syndrome and just going, no, it's not good enough. It's not good. Why can't you give me anything that's good enough? Hey, John, it's Irv. Could you come score? What? You don't do Bond movies. What do you mean you don't do Bond movies? Fine. Click.
So, yeah.
Don't watch it for the music, Tens. That's all you need to know.
That's right. Even the title song, it's funny because this movie competed with Octopussy, which I also...
Did it compete, though, really?
Right. It didn't compete. It just happened to be released the same time.
The same summer, yep.
But as much as I complain about All Time High from Octopussy, the Never Say Never Again theme song might actually be worse.
Do you remember when I started watching this the first go around and I was sending you texts? Yeah. And I'm like, what is this 80s fucking garbage I'm listening to? And then literally 30 seconds later, like, oh shit, I remember this song. I don't know why I remember it. It's garbage.
Yeah, it's
like,
not.
I want to be Dionne Warwick. Whoever the singer was trying to be Dionne Warwick for this thing. But and then listening to it while James Bond is being a badass, I don't think there was any possible worse choice for
really,
action. Oh my God.
I mean, it was certainly of the time. I mean, I'm sure that anyone who's been listening to this podcast for any amount of time and listened through our Octopussy review remembered how much I hate All Time High, where I felt like that too was incredibly miscast as the theme song to a spy movie involving James Bond. But maybe it was just a thing of the time. I don't know, because they both have the same "what the fuck is this" vibe.
It's No Way Out. What was that song?
Yeah,
it made no sense in the movie either. But you remember? I don't know. I always felt, I know this isn't true, because I know that there were movie songs in the 70s that got put on the radio in pretty heavy rotation, but I always felt like the 80s was the decade where that shit was supposed to happen. Every movie was supposed to have a chart topper. And so they were just cramming in.
I mean, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were just cramming these movies in as a way to support the advertising for the movie.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that's exactly what this was.
So bad.
Because if you listen to that on the radio without knowing that it was in a movie,
you would think, it's just some weird funk track. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like okay,
funky
that's
soul.
I didn't know Dionne Warwick cut a new album. Right?
Right. Oh wait, this is Lanny Hall.
Like, yeah, I know her.
Jason shrugs. For those of you who don't have the opportunity to see Jason shrugging as he says that.
I would hope by now that the Tens know when there's a Jason shrug moment coming just by the silence.
That's right. So, speaking of how this fared against Octopussy, the budget for this movie was $36 million, although that's after they ran out of money, and Schwartzman had to use money out of his own pocket to finish the film. That being said, they had a record opening weekend of $10,958,157 domestic over the 4-day Columbus Day weekend in which it opened, which was more than Octopussy's $8.9 million opening weekend. However, ultimately, Never Say Never Again did not beat Octopussy, which Never Say Never Again earned $160 million versus Octopussy's $187.5 million. So
I do remember when I was a kid, there being a lot of buzz about Connery coming back. The advertising kind of focused on that. But I remember
I'm sure that
there
was
were news reports, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, that was the whole reason why it made any money at all, I think. That and people went to the movies back then.
Well, yeah.
So
what else are you going to do on the Columbus Day weekend? Remember when that was a thing?
Oh my God, right? Wow. But let's get into the characters here. Obviously, we've got Sean Connery back as James Bond, in addition to the fact that he's got a producing credit, I believe, on this film.
Yes.
But with a bigger and better hairpiece, and I think he lost a couple pounds for this one too. I think he looks good. Like, honestly, like, given his age and given how he looked in Diamonds Are Forever, I actually think he looks much better in this movie than he did in Diamonds.
Well, yeah, but there's like 10 years in between those two movies. You would hope he'd get in better shape.
One would hope, yes. I kind of wonder if he had the same thing that Raj had right before A View to a Kill with the eyes, because he's got a little bit of the open eye syndrome. It's like, did you have some work done, buddy? Like, I don't know if he did or not. All I know is I actually think he looks really good in this movie, like, for his age.
He looks ruggedly handsome.
Ruggedly handsome. Yeah. I don't know if he looks like Bond per se, or perhaps
the hairpiece is definitely Bond.
Yes. I mean, he looks like Bond at Sean Connery's age in this movie. Yes. So, and then we've got Domino Patachi, played by the lovely Kim Basinger, although not to compare women's looks, but I don't think she brought to the screen quite the same aura that Claudine Auger brought in Thunderball as Domino. But I mean, Kim Basinger is a beautiful woman and perfectly sufficient in this film. She kind of, I kind of, so obviously I saw the first Batman movie well before I saw this movie in its entirety. And all I kept thinking as I was watching this movie back was, like, she's acting just like she did when she was Vicky Vale, and she was sort of captured by the Joker. Which is yet one.
Did you ever see 9.5 Weeks?
Yes.
So she can act. Right?
Yes, she can.
I don't think she was really ever cast in anything in the 80s that required her to do much in the way of acting in most circumstances.
That is fair. That is very fair. And she even went on record as saying that I guess she tried to not be, she was approached to be a Bond girl several times, and she turned it down most of the time because she didn't want to be seen as that type of actress. And then finally she got to a point where she was sort of, she needed the work. So she took this, and it actually kind of kickstarted her career.
It really did.
Yeah. But I mean, at least eventually it gave her an opportunity to act, like you said, like in things like 9.5 Weeks and some of the stuff she did in the 90s and that sort of thing.
Yeah. At the end of the day, most James Bond movies until the Daniel Craig era, the bad guy women were the ones that had any kind of meat to them, right?
Oh, absolutely. They were the ones that were the most interesting.
Particularly like this one, right?
Yes, Fatima Blush. Played, may I just say, superbly over the top by Barbara Carrera. I mean, she was fantastic, and she earned a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress in this. I mean, she was fantastic in it. She brought it. She brought all kinds of... She brought everything.
And then some.
And then some.
Including MC Hammer's pants.
Those were amazing.
Or
MC Hammer before MC Hammer.
She knocked over a Kryptonian criminal, but they ended up tearing the top of the outfit first, so all she had were the bottoms.
It looks just like that. It looks just like the three bad guys in Superman 2.
I half expected her in that one scene to go, Superman, but she didn't.
Instead, she just said, "Spread your legs."
That's right.
But yeah, she was fantastic. For those who don't know her repertoire, she also did Condor Man, the 1977 version of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Which is good.
It was it?
Yeah.
As well as 1989's Loverboy with Patrick Dempsey, which
was not good.
Which was, I have a friend that champions that movie, but we won't go there for right now. And then we've got a very interesting casting choice here. We've got Klaus Maria Brandauer as Largo, as Maximilian Largo. He's a good actor, and he plays him really weird. Like really weird, but it's not bad. It's just a weird take. He's
like
just
the
a
nicest
unique
Bond villain ever. So polite, so giving.
But he does psycho well. He does crazy well. He does very good as the crazy part. He looks like an 80s ski instructor or something who just decided
he's gonna go up to John Cusack and go, so you think you could ski the K2? And then Bert Viola from Moonlight is gonna come out and go, you can do it, Hoops, just get in there.
He really does give off that vibe a lot. I don't know if we're comparing this between, since basically this is just a different take on Thunderball. I don't know.
One of us is definitely comparing it, and the other is like, shut up about the comparisons.
Yeah. I think you can figure that out, Tens. But I do think that Adolfo Celi played him more iconically, more maybe just from a looks perspective. But I do think that Klaus gives the character a certain vibe.
I think that the problem of comparing the two movies is one is an Ian template movie and one is James Bond free of those constraints. Right?
That's true. That is true.
So if you like James Bond that we've gotten for 50, 60 years, this one's always going to stand out like a sore thumb because it's not following the blueprint. Probably because it wasn't allowed to.
Right. It was literally legally not allowed to.
Right. Do you think they had somebody on set, like the continuity coordinator was, that's getting a little too close to an actual James Bond thing. We're going to need to rewrite that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So then we've got Blofeld.
Criminally underused. Criminally underused.
Although, to be honest, whenever I see Max von Sydow, all I can think of is the brewmaster from Strange Brew.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to go, level 5!
all I ever see, I see two things. I always immediately see Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon.
Okay.
But then I also see him as Liet Kynes from Dune, from David Lynch's Dune.
Okay.
Because he's one of the characters that is firmly in place whenever I read that book, is that's what he looks like in the book and sounds like. But I love Max von Sydow. I'll watch him do anything.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, he did all of his stuff in probably 5 hours.
Oh, yeah. That was a day.
Yeah.
A day's worth of work for him.
And I'm just like, and he was like third on the credit list, and he's in it for like 3.5 minutes.
It's just...
That's how you get a paycheck, my friends.
Yeah, didn't really add a whole lot to the... Sadly, just because of the way he was written, it didn't lend itself to allowing him to do much. Which is kind of a head-scratcher, too, because Kevin McClory fought so hard to get those characters to have ownership of those characters.
Yeah.
And then what does he do? He puts Blofeld in for like 5 minutes and hardly does anything,
Max von Sydow should have been Largo.
That would have been an interesting take for sure. That he could have really spread his wings and made that an interesting, yeah.
Now I want to point out that I would not have put Klaus Brandauer in as Blofeld, though.
No, that would be a bad idea. That would be a very bad idea. I do think, going back to like what I was saying earlier about like if they had gone full camp with this movie, if they had just leaned into all the camp in this movie, and then you do put Max von Sydow in the role of Largo, imagine that. That would have been
absolutely.
That would have been really interesting. And then we've got an inspired casting choice for Felix Leiter with Bernie Casey.
Oh yeah,
who is clearly the predecessor to Jeffrey Wright as Felix.
Right. I will tell you, to this day, I always think Bernie Casey is in the Timothy Dalton ones. And then I get very surprised when it turns out to be David Hedison again. He left kind of an impression on me because he was kind of like a "fuck you, James" kind of attitude, which is, well, like you said, kind of carried over into the Daniel Craig films.
Yes. I think he's great. I think he's fantastic. And yeah, I definitely think Babs at some point saw this movie and was like, Bernie Casey, good casting. How can I match that? Scratchy, chin, scratchy. So, and then we've got, I guess I can't call him Q Because they refer to
call
him as
Q in the movie.
Oh, they call him Algernon though.
Nope. Felix calls him Q.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. When they're talking about the pen.
Felix calls him Q, but Bond refers to him as, is it Algernon?
Yeah, it's Algernon. But he's clearly supposed to be a Q that doesn't like busting James Bond's balls. Who the hell wants that?
The way that they paint him is this guy that just like hangs out and builds shit and like is kind of a dirty old man and just kind of a weird dude and he's like,
like the real Q probably would be.
Right. More accurate to real life, perhaps. But yeah, played by Alec McCowan. Not sure how I feel about this, but that could be a more of a writing choice than anything else.
I thought it was a good interaction from an acting standpoint, at least.
Yeah, he had great chemistry with Connery, actually. Yeah. I thought that part worked really well. So I think it's just the way that this movie paints Q in general is
right. But again,
different.
There's Eon Bond, and here's what we could do with our Bond.
Right.
And maybe there was something about, well, he can't have an antagonistic relationship with Q because that's been clearly established in our movies and not in the books. Blah, 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 blah.
Right. And if he said something like, I don't know, pay attention 007, that might lead to some legal entanglements or
Injunction!
Something. Exactly.
Embargo!
Then we've got M, played by Edward Fox. Again, I mean, you know what? No, I don't like the performance. He's so over the top with everything. And maybe I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of how he played it and how M is written. M just like hates the double O's in this movie. And I'm not familiar enough with the books to know exactly what M's relationship was throughout all of the novels, but I'm pretty sure it's not this. I'm pretty sure that M had a fairly good relationship with the double O's, was very much on board with the program. And maybe it's another one of these things like you were talking about, the fact that this is like an elder Bond. This is like a, do we still need these guys type thing, that whole vibe.
They clearly state that he's not the original M. Because when Bond's in there after the training, he's talking about, well, technically, I lost my legs. Yeah. And he gets up like, well, things may have been very different with the older M, 007. But I think that was the whole point. There really was a leaning into, and this is kind of funny when you think about it. This was probably the first time we decided that maybe the 007s might be less relevant in the current world situation.
Yes.
Right. And this is still during the Cold War. So
yeah, and this is like almost 30 years before the Daniel Craig or even like in GoldenEye when they brought that up.
Right. So this was not intended to be an M that appeared anywhere before.
Right.
To move the plot along, we needed a guy who was more interested in budget numbers and running it like a proper government agency than he was about what the actual functionality of the department was supposed to have in the first place. And I think he did a pretty good job about it. You're right, he was a little too uppity.
He was just so over the top with everything. I felt like, I can't even tell you how many times I feel like I saw him slam his fist on the desk, just overemphasizing every single line that he had to spit out. I was like, okay, well, maybe take that down just a couple. I mean, I know you're supposed to be this guy. Like, I know you're supposed to be this guy that's not very likable and, you're just this penny pinching, ball busting kind of guy, but like maybe take it down just a notch. I don't know. Just me.
And can we just give a shout out to his porn Tanner? Tanner with the long hair and the porn stash.
Yeah.
See if you could get this see if you could find out what Palmyra is, right? He's like,
right.
I'll do my best, and then off he goes. That's where the saxophone should have come in, because he was porn Tanner. He'd be like, burner. I'll see what I can
He was
do.
very much porn Tanner. Surprised he didn't walk into the room with a pizza box. But let's move on.
Yes.
Then we've got Miss Moneypenny, who played by Pamela Salem. I feel like her character is kind of reduced to almost like a bimbo ditzy secretary thing. Like I wish they would have given her just a little bit more to do. Like even Lois Maxwell had more to do as Moneypenny. It she just comes off kind of dirt, like when.
Well, yeah, because she's just a way to get James Bond from point A to point B, right?
Right.
There wasn't any witty banter. There wasn't any sexual tension. And also, she was not age appropriate to who Moneypenny should have been if James Bond was that old.
Exactly.
So they should have had an age appropriate actor. There might have been more opportunity for some real kind of Moneypenny Bond banter there, because then you have that element of we've known each other forever kind of thing. Whereas she was just like, oh, I'm just a pretty person. Here I go. Bloop, 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 bloop.
Right. And instead, she reacts to Bond's punchline about, I'm to eliminate all free radicals. And then she's like, oh my, and it's just like, okay, sure. So then we've got a couple smaller roles. We've got Captain Jack Patacci, played by Gavin O'Herlihy. Herlihy. Yeah. Who is fine. I mean, he's not in it for very long. He's the contact lens doesn't help. He's already kind of a weird looking dude. And then you give him the eyeball contact lens thing that makes his eye look all buggy, and it's even more off-putting to look at him.
Yeah, when they show him with the little metal thing going on, my eyes start watering every time. Like, fun fact, I think he is the son of Dan O'Herlihy, who many people may know was the old man in RoboCop, the guy who ran OCP.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay.
And also played Grig in The Last Starfighter with a ton of makeup on.
That's some interesting fun facts. Jason presents interesting fun facts.
That's the only reason you pay me my meager salary to be on this show.
And then we've got the character Nigel Smallfaucet, played by none other than Mr. Bean himself, Rowan Atkinson, in his very first film role. Who does what Rowan Atkinson does.
He Rowan Atkinson the shit out of that role.
So hard. He Rowan Atkinsoned it very, very hard. That's all we can really say about that. I mean, he's funny. He hits all the right comedic. I know. I don't know how it's almost a mutant-like ability to get his lower jaw that far out when he's talking.
Rowan Atkinson, the Jim Carrey of the 80s, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, indeed. Then we've got Lip. I think that's how it's pronounced. Played by Pat Roach of Raiders of the Lost Ark fame. The big guy, the henchman who comes in.
That dies twice.
Dies twice in the movie. That's right, because he's
the big Nepalese guy that gets shot at the end of the bar scene. And then he's the bald guy that gets his head cut off in the fight
dies
scene
twice in Raiders.
Yeah,
I thought he died
once in Temple of Doom.
Dies once in Temple of Doom, twice in Raiders, and once in Never Say Never Again.
Correct. And arguably, I think the death in Never Say Never Again was probably the worst, because I'd rather have my head cut off or my body crushed by a rock crusher than die from James Bond's pee with a bunch of bottles in my back. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I would say, make it quick. Just chop my head off with a airplane propeller. And then finally, we've got Captain Peterson, played by none other than Billy J. Mitchell of Top Secret and GoldenEye fame. That guy the amount of work that guy got was just unbelievable. Anyway, so that's all the players, I guess. Should we get into the real game here?
Absolutely.
So, we go straight into the title graphics here, since, legal entanglements and what have you. So we've got this big alternate universe 007 logo that is becomes a screen of 007 logos that you can you push through it essentially to see behind it the airplane shot that's going over this swampy water and stuff. And we get the title, not terrible, but definitely feels kind of knockoff Bond. But like you were saying before, I mean, if this was just an 80s spy movie that was kind of kooky, this would be the titling you'd get.
This is exactly what you'd get in the 80s, right?
That's right. So then we get the theme song, and it's the theme song. And then as the music is going and the titles are going, we see this tropical area with some kind of mansion on a hill, and you see a guy running down a dirt road, and then we see someone running up through the trees. And hey, it's Sean Connery with guy liner on, which was the very first thing I noticed. I was like, huh, okay, well, it is the 80s. Okay, sure. So,
well, he just had that eye work done, so they wanted to accentuate that. Right?
That's right, exactly. So I'm guessing this is like somewhere in Central America or whatever. But again, as soon as I saw him, I was like, okay, he looks more fit. He looks more up for it, Didn't hate the toupee, even though it's the toupee is toupeeing.
It did some heavy lifting in those underwater scenes, so
it did.
They paid some cash for it.
Yeah, indeed. So
it's not the $10 knockoff they got for Red October.
That's right. So have fun storming the drug lord's mansion. But so he makes his way up through this mansion thing, and he's taking people out and stuff. And this brings me to my first thought.
Okay.
Now, we don't find this out until after this whole little mission thing. But if this is supposed to be a training exercise, and he's killing these people. First of all, is he actually killing these people? Because it looks like he's killing these people. Or is he just knocking people out?
I believe he's incapacitating them.
Okay, so maybe the blow dart is just a stun dart or something.
Sure.
I don't know. But the thing is he swings in, a very No Time to Die type swing in to this building, I might add.
By the way, after making an impossible right angle grenade throw.
Yes, that was the most ridiculous thing ever.
Did he bend the bullet like in Wanted, just
Right. Also, that rope would have never held on that one little nail. Given the angle that he was standing on top of the building, that rope would have just slipped right off the top of that thing. I mean, I know we're not supposed to analyze this way, but this is what we do. We analyze these things.
We aren't? Have you been listening to the podcast you've been on for 5 years?
All right, so this is exactly what we do. So, but it's just he swings down very, in a very kind of reminded me of No Time to Die, the swing off the giant bridge thing.
Sure.
But swings down in and then shoots all these guys. And again, is this like rubber bullets maybe?
Well, did you note that while you hear gunfire, you never see the gunfire come out of the gun?
This is true. You don't, and you don't see any blood.
At first I thought that was some kind of continuity thing where they just didn't load the guns with blanks.
Right.
Because it had been a minute since I'd seen this before, so I forgot this was a training exercise.
Right.
But then I started thinking that's what it was. He was just shooting blanks.
Okay.
And I guess if he pointed the gun in your general direction, your mission operative was to fall down and be dead.
You're quote unquote dead.
Yes.
Which worked much better in The Living Daylights when there were actual paintball pellets hitting people.
Yes. But you knew that it was a training exercise at that point. You're supposed to be fooled here. So
Right, yeah.
So they could have had Molly gear on for that matter, right? The little lasers and everything that the military was using back then. The little beepers go off to let you know you're dead. So there were plenty of ways to illustrate that this was a training exercise. They just didn't want you to know it was until you got to the end of it.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just a thought that came to my head. But yeah. So yeah, he swings in on this impossible. First, he impossibly throws the grenade a la Wanted. Then he swings in, which I don't know who the stuntman was that swung in and started shooting, but it looked great.
Did look great.
That part looked great. Then he goes and saves the girl, and of course the girl stabs him. And then and then he just sort of gives this look of, oh shit. Damn it. And then we cut to the CCTV version of the events.
Did your mind go to that point where he stopped? You're like, okay, this is where the credits should start? Just automatically?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly where the credits should have been. But again, they were probably very worried about lawsuits and everything else. Yep. So then we cut to M in the office, and he's very disappointed that it only took 1 minute, 47 seconds for Bond to quote unquote die. Bond, of course, is like, well, I didn't die. I was just blah, blah, blah,
Right.
But yeah, so they're going through the footage, and he's just upset that Bond's out of shape or whatever, and Bond's arguing too. He's like, well, you've been having me teach more than doing actual missions, so there's something to do with that as well. But yeah, we get this. This is when we sort of get the introduction that M is this fellow that we talked about already. Just kind of being a different M, And M, who was clearly brought in to cut corners and save money.
Yes. A penny-pinching bureaucrat to the core.
Yeah. And also apparently kind of new agey for 1983.
Yeah.
The fact that he's talking about eliminating free radicals from the body, too much white bread, red meat, and vodka martinis, like, how very new agey of you to bring up free radicals that early on in the new age movement. But his retort is perfect.
Too many free radicals, that's your problem.
Free radicals, sir?
Yeah, they're toxins that destroy the body and the brain, caused by eating too much red meat and white bread and too many dry martinis.
Then I shall cut out the white bread, sir.
It's kind of the best line ever. One of the better ones, I think.
So there were a lot of the typical Bondisms in here, the bon mots and whatever else. But Connery had a couple of really good sort of under his breath lines that were pretty fantastic in this.
Yeah, between that one and There Was This Girl from Philadelphia, which that one really got me, actually. But after the whole line about free radicals and what have you, he sort of figures out that they're sending him to Shrublands to shed some weight and get in better shape and meet with a doctor.
Spy fat camp.
Who knew that there was such a thing as spy fat camp? But here we are.
I need to go there.
Me too.
Ben, can you send me to Shrublands, please?
I'll work on that. The last of the petty cash isn't taking us very far, but I'll do what I can.
I feel like I have a lot of free radicals in my bloodstream.
I have so many free radicals, especially where the new undisclosed location happens to be. So many free radicals running around everywhere.
There's a lot of opportunity for free radicalization.
So much. But so then he walks out, and that's when we get the line that he says to Moneypenny.
Have you got an assignment, James?
Yes. Yes, Moneypenny. I'm to eliminate all free radicals.
Oh. Do be careful.
So then Bond arrives at Shrublands in a 1937 Bentley 4 1/4 liter gurney nutting 3-position drop head coupe. It is a beautiful automobile.
Please say that again 3 times fast.
No. I had to look up exactly what the model was, but it's a beautiful automobile, and it's kind of a nice nod to the literary Bond, because in the literary Bond, he always drove a Bentley, so it was just kind of cool to see that. I do like when they're there at the car, they do the double entendre thing of, well, it's still in pretty good shape, looking at the car.
Yes.
Referring to Connery type thing.
Well, but that's the thing. He basically says it, right? Under his breath.
Yes.
It's a nod to, it's an old car, but it's still great and functional. I'm an old agent, but I'm still great and functional.
Right. And then immediately cuts into him with the doctor talking about all of those things. So it's... So then he gets this itinerary from the doctor of all these things he has to do. He has to go to an iridologist, which is, I looked it up, it's an alternative medicine person who looks at a person's iris. So he meets with an iridologist at 4, a colonic at 5, followed by a cup of parsley tea. Yum. And then the button on this, the best part of this whole visit with the doctor is at the very end when the nurse is like, can you fill this beaker for me? And he's like, from here?
From here?
And he's across the room.
Can I tell you how happy I was that he didn't nail the hot little brunette nurse?
Yeah.
He slept with age-appropriate women, more or less.
Yeah. Mostly.
Except for the main characters who were not cast to be age appropriate, clearly. But, I mean, he wasn't like on a tear with all of these young women.
He wasn't like George Lazenbying his way through the...
Yes. Correct.
Or perhaps Roger Mooring his way through.
Oh, for real. But at least Raj in those last few movies are like, I don't think so.
Yeah, at least in View to a Kill, he's like,
You're quite attractive, but I don't think so. For your eyes only,
Yeah, I'll buy you some ice cream.
Exactly.
So then we hear bonjour and all sorts of other French words, and we see feet walking across a marble floor, and we see this very fancy woman walking, and it's she's coming to a safety deposit facility, and then we see Fatima blush. And then she and the worker, they use their keys to open different boxes. And then, of course, the secret door opens up and she goes down the stairs. And this is kind of...
I got before you go in, I just have to say, I got a real Get Smart feel from the hallway she went into. I was waiting for more doors to open up and close.
I know, I'm waiting for dun 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 dun.
But then I'm like, would Mel Brooks have sued them too? Think of all the lawsuits they would have had.
So yeah, she goes down into this very Get Smart hallway with some sort of early version of facial recognition, and then the bars part. It's definitely part Get Smart, part more that I just feel like this whole movie is littered with like 60s Batman vibes.
Yes.
Like this felt very 60s Batman vibe too.
All we needed was some Dutch angles and we'd have been right there.
Oh, so much. Thank God they didn't do the Dutch angle thing very much in this movie. I mean, it was bad enough in the villa.
I bet you that from a Douglas Slocum standpoint, that's a dirty word.
Oh, probably. Yeah. So then she scurries her way into this Spectre meeting that's already underway. And we hear Blofeld talking about how they've invested heavily in the Middle East and Central America to promote insurgency and revolution, which they've then made back by selling arms and missiles to both sides of the coin, as it were. And then he reveals the newest and biggest effort of Spectre, which is the Tears of Allah, which we then get an explanation from Largo, which comes to us on a silly TV screen, which is superimposed on this big ornate picture frame.
Right.
Which is like basically the Kingsmen before the Kingsmen were the Kingsmen.
Well, it makes you wonder where he might have got that from.
Yep. I mean, because the Kingsman is very silly and does...
What if this one's his favorite?
Makes you wonder. So then we get this... So we get the explanation about how they took this American Air Force officer and got him hooked on heroin, and then they performed a corneal implant, which makes his right eye an exact replica of the President of the United States.
No explanation how they got the President of the United States retinal pattern, but okay.
Right, exactly. The no explanation of how they managed to get that scan done. But so he's now being moved to a clinic, quote unquote, in London, the clinic in question being Shrublands, where number 12, aka Fatima Blush, will be taking care of him, and the person in question is Captain Jack Patachi, who we see then a photo of him with Domino, and that sort of lays out the whole plot of what they're sort of working on. They use him for his access and for the presidential eye, because apparently eye scans are already a thing in 1983, but...
Absolutely. We know that they are for sure.
Oh, totally.
You know what happened with that? Somebody watched Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where Kirk had to do and said, we don't got to wait for the 23rd century for that. We'll bring it now.
So then we're back at Shrublands, and we immediately cut to Fatima, who is rolling Jack in a wheelchair at almost a comically fast pace through Shrublands, nearly hits Bond, and then Bond ends up bumping into this chiropractor type doctor, age appropriate, I might add, named Patricia, who is, quote, having him in a half an hour. And he's like, oh, great. My place or yours. So get a little bit of that. Splendid. Then we immediately cut to Patricia performing this back cracking thing. And can I just say how good of an acting job Connery does here? Because at the beginning, as they're rocking back and forth, he's like, oh, this is quite nice. And then when she finally cracks his back and he's jolted into the realization of what's going on, he does such a good job of acting like, what the hell is this?
Right.
I really feel like he definitely went for it in this movie. I feel like the fact that he's not sort of governed by the normal crew at like Eon allowed him some creative openings to perform in a way that is really kind of likable.
Well, again, it's always been my biggest problem with James Bond, right? Character development, right?
Right.
James Bond is, not James Bond could be. And this was Sean going, this is what James Bond could be. Let's give him some weight. Let's give him some heft. Let's make him a real person. Because I can't think of any James Bond movie except this one that he actually got to act in. He was just reacting to lines and shooting things, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's some small moments where he gets to put a little bit into it, but at the end of the day, I think that he came back because he had the opportunity to be James Bond and act.
And be able to write some of it himself.
Absolutely, and have influence over the production while he was working on it.
Yes. So, but yeah, just an awesome moment right there. And then he's got another great line right afterwards after putting up with the different cracks and pops. He's like, there's more beneficial methods to help a man's lower back.
Right.
Which it's kind of weird to hear Roger Moore style one-liners come out of Sean Connery's mouth.
Yeah.
But it kind of works because he's at that age where it works. But
yes.
So then we cut to Captain Jack's room as he's kind of trying to smoke a cigarette in secret before Fatima shows up. And in the meantime, we also quick cut back to Bond, and he's in his room with his suitcase when Patricia then knocks on his door to surprise him. And of course, Bond thinks that it's a really good kind of surprise, but instead it's food, including lentil delight, dandelion salad, and goat's cheese. Which, listen, I like goat cheese, but all the other things on there, I understand. The not so great. But of course, that's when Bond opens his suitcase and shows the beluga caviar, quail's eggs, vodka, and foie gras. And the look on her face when she bites into the foie gras was kind of priceless. Because she took a really big bite. Can I just say that too? She took
she did.
Enormous bite. Like, where was the director to go? Maybe
less. Maybe less.
Yeah.
It's Irving Kershner, though. He was probably like, I like where you're coming from on that. That's fine. We'll keep it.
Yeah.
Because her reaction was priceless. Like, she hadn't had something that good in a long time.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that she took like a massive bite. So then we're back with Captain Jack, and he's trying to hide his cigarette. And then Fatima comes in to bring him food, and she's upset about his smoking because she's worried that his new eyeball is going to get infected. And she just like beats the shit out of him, which is so counterintuitive to what she was just talking about. She's there talking about like trying to protect this eye, and then she proceeds to beat the crap out of him. But whatever, okay. And then she, on top of everything else, she threatens to hurt Domino if he doesn't obey. And she plays this whole thing. I mean, she plays the whole movie like a dominatrix, really. Like
she does.
But, that whole scene goes down. And so we get the sort of weird chemistry between her and Captain Jack. And then we're back with Bond, who, of course, is now in bed with Dr. Patricia. And, but he hears all this fighting going on. So he gets out of bed. And at this point, Fatima is literally slamming this guy's head against the wall again.
Yeah, it seems counterproductive.
So, yeah. But then she immediately slips right back into like mistress mode and is like, does baby want his candy? As she like reveals her thigh with a needle full of heroin. It's just, it's such a weird bipolar performance that she gives during this whole thing.
Right.
So then we see, after all that, then we see Jack set up this contraption that basically tests whether or not he will pass the retina test for the missiles that he's trying to authorize or whatever, to make sure that he can pass as being the president's eye.
Right.
Which, again, just like you, made me feel so squeamish, like watching this with his buggy eye and just watery and God, every time he pulled that thing, bleh. So then Bond's like really trying to see in, and he's got his finger on the blinds or whatever. It's one of those little rolly, retractable blind things with a spring in it, and he accidentally triggers it, and the whole thing goes up to the ceiling, and Captain Jack freaks out because Bond's clearly there watching everything that's going on, and then Fatima comes to the window to try and find out who it was. And of course, she's got her little night vision goggles, and she's like, oh, I know who that is. 007. Because apparently Fatima knows everything. I don't know how she knows. I guess it's just one of those, my old adversary type things.
James Bond is the most secret agent in the history of secret agents.
Right. So it makes sense that she would know who he is. So then it just sort of cuts to the next morning, and we see Bond coming down the steps, and he's in gym clothes. He runs into his main doctor along with Dr. Patricia. Apparently her real last name was Fearing. I had to look that part of it up. But we get from the doctor, Miss Fearing tells me you're making fine progress, but I must say you're looking a bit peaked this morning. Again, more Roger Moore-esque lines coming out of Sean Connery's mouth where he's just like, well, I was up all night. And he's like, how about a herbal enema? And he's like, thank you, sir. It's just like, what? So then we see Bond, he sort of sneaks into Captain Jack's room and he finds the cigarettes in the matchbook under the bed, and we see the little insignia on the matchbook. Pay attention, kids.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that symbol. And when I say a lot, I mean entirely too fucking much. We get it!
So then we cut to the gym, and Bond is using this interesting bench press machine, and in comes Pat Roach, who takes out the normal janitor in a very Pat Roach kind of way, and then pulls out the little safety thing on the bench press machine that pushes all the weight down on Bond's chest. He's like, heavy, Mr. Bond. And then we get this fight. But I will say the whole heavy Mr. Bond thing, like that would have crushed his collarbone. I'm just saying.
Well, this whole thing, the whole fight scene, as it spans across hallways and kitchens and supply closets and laboratories, it was like the water cooler theory personified and multiplied. And that theory is that if there's a water cooler in any action scene, the likelihood of that water cooler getting destroyed is proportionate to the number of firearms being used or the amount of time spent in that area fighting. But water coolers always used to get broke when they were made out of glass. Now out of plastic, not so much. But they broke every damn thing on their way that was breakable. I'm surprised they didn't pull some of those patients that were watching the football match and break them while they were fighting. But I did like Pat Roach's little thing when they're fighting and when they're going past the football match, and Bond's at a scene, but one person turns around and he just stops, puts his shoulder on the chair like, sure. And then once the person turns back to the game, he goes after Bond. That was awesome.
And I love that in that exact moment too, when right after he goes back to fighting Bond, he puts his dukes up in the exact same way. Exact same way as in Raiders, when he puts his dukes up to fight Indy, like by the plane. Yep. That same old-timey boxing fight pose.
But man, did they break a lot of shit.
Oh my God. Well, and then some of it's just cheesy too, like when Bond picks up the weights, and those weights are clearly...
They're like 25-pound weights.
They weigh nothing.
Well, they say they're 25, but he chucks it like it's made out of what it is, which is probably cardboard with paint.
Right.
And it bounces right off of him.
Between that and then like him holding up it looked like a shoe rack or something that Bond was holding up to defend himself, which again was clearly made of balsa wood or something, but it was just funny watching this fight that, like you said, I mean, if there was something in a room that could break, they broke it throughout the whole thing. I also thought it was a weird line coming from the woman in the kitchen when they found their way into the kitchen. She calls them both maniacs or
yes, and then runs into the larder.
It was weird because Pat Roach is clearly the aggressor and Bond is just trying to evade this guy, but she calls them both maniacs or whatever it is that she says. I don't know. This whole fight was what it was.
It was very slapsticky. This was maybe the most Lorenzo Semple Jr. part of this movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb, you know? That's all I kept thinking of. Here's Adam West running around with the bomb. Here's a nun. Here's some school children.
Right up to the ending of it, when he throws the urine sample in his face. And we don't know that until he turns after he's dead or whatever. But also I find it really funny too that earlier in the fight, Bond is also thrown into a bunch of glass beakers, but does not receive the same deadly treatment that Pat Roach gets.
Yes.
Somehow Bond is impervious to that, but Pat Roach is going to die from that. So sure, it's fine.
It's fine.
Because that's what this kind of movie is.
Yeah, don't think about it too hard and it'll be just fine.
That's right. So Lip is dead now due to a combination of James Bond's urine and a bunch of beakers stuck into his back. Bad way to go. Bad way to go. So then we get this scene with M, because now Bond is in trouble. He's back in M's office. And I kind of, this scene actually bothers me because I feel like they went too far into the comedy thing. It felt too obvious that they were just trying to make this a pure comedy. Like this whole scene, everything is just like, he's like, M is again slamming his fist down on the desk, and M apparently has to get the minister to muzzle the press and spend money to fix up the shrublands, and he's just like losing his mind. I think it's just the performance from the actor who plays M that I'm just not crazy about in this scene more than anything else. It's just like nobody said maybe let's do this one more time, but like maybe bring down the angry just a little bit. I don't know. So M's mad and Bond's like, well, I did lose 4 pounds and God knows how many free radicals. So then M threatens to suspend him and everything else. But now we're at Swadley 63rd Tactical Air Command Base. And we see a general speaking about some sort of inertial guidance system using dummy warheads, and they're going to do this practice run, I guess, with these missiles. And we see after the meeting is over with that Captain Jack is there in the room. And as soon as like their little meeting ends and it's like ready, break, Captain Jack then sneaks out of the room. Like as the countdown begins, he sneaks into this little missile launch computer room to use his eye verification thing to change the load that's inside the missile chamber. So,
which, let me point out to you, there's a lot of stuff that was going on in this scene that may not have been 100% technically correct, but all sounded pretty technically correct from a military standpoint, up until they got to the fully automated reloading of nuclear warheads into a cruise missile with what looked like a gigantic crane game claw picking up the nuclear warhead and placing it into the cruise missile itself. And I'm like, what happens if it drops off to the side? Do you have to put another $1 in to see if you can pick it back up?
How many tickets do you get if you successfully drop it in correctly the first time?
Exactly.
Also, there's no like wire connections. It's just kind of dunked in there. And
it just goes in, and all that matters is there's nuclear material in it. The cruise missile will do the rest.
Right, exactly. You don't have to worry about anything else. There's nothing else that needs to be done. It's fine.
You got the warheads in there? Perfect.
Right. But I digress. So then Captain Jack's breaking out the little eye verification thingy, and he gets it to be approved. And so you hear all this stuff on the automated speaker voice, that now switching with nuclear payload or whatever it is. And then at the end of it, of course, it says, have a nice day. It's like, am I watching Top Secret? Like,
or maybe, am I watching a late era Roger Moore James Bond movie? Because that's definitely something the computer would have said in one of his later movies too.
So then we see the missiles and they get loaded onto the plane, and meanwhile Jack leaves the base. And then they shoot the missiles, and I'm like, is this Firefox? The
optical shot that they were using for that was terrible all the way through. It was so obvious. and let's fit. There were 2 big special effects shots in this movie. That one, and then the game towards the end.
Oh,
and they spent all the money on the game and not on this shot.
No. This was like the bargain basement version of Firefox.
Oh, it was. You had your B-2 bomber up there, and all of it looked pretty technically correct. I don't know about the rotating missile launcher in the middle of the bomb bay, but the B-2 could launch cruise missiles, and the cruise missiles looked like cruise missiles, kind of.
Yeah.
So there was at least the model builders knew what they were doing, if not the guys filming it.
Well, I feel like model builders are the guys that are going to pay attention to detail. It's just it's the movie guys that go, this is fine. This is all fine. So they shoot the missiles, and then we cut back to Jack, who is now on the road, and Fatima pulls up next to him, and she's like, woohoo, great job, and all this stuff. And then she does the old, hey, what's that over there? And he looks, and just as he looks, she throws her pet snake into his car, which then sends him into a frenzy, and he drives off the road and into some sort of random house thing on the side of the road. And then she gets out and retrieves her snake and is like, oh, my poor baby, and everything else. And then she plants the bomb, and bye-bye Captain Jack. So that's the end of...
So do you think that the last thing that went through his mind before he crashed was snakes? Why did it have to be snakes?
Probably. It is weird. There keeps being these currents of other movies running through this movie, and that is one of them. So that's the end of Captain Jack, and Fatima drives off, and now we're back to the missiles, which are now headed towards the water, and they go over this beach with these kids that are making a sandcastle. That shot is...
Well, the kids don't react to it at all.
I know. They didn't even direct the kids to look overhead. Like, what the hell is this loud noise? And one of these things flying directly overhead. Plus, the way that they composed that shot, the missiles look like they were super low to the ground.
Yeah, and would have been affecting the water that they were going over.
That too. But just the fact that, like, the scaling on the missiles, I felt was much too big, given... You know what I mean? Yes. Like, it just didn't work right.
What we're saying, folks, is that Industrial Light and Magic was not involved in
this
any
is
of
correct.
This.
No. So anyway, so now it's flying out over the ocean. So then Largo's boat sort of intercepts these missiles. There's this satellite dish on the top of Largo's boat. And we cut to this guy. There's this really bizarre cutaway that they keep going to of this guy Kovacs, the guy who's basically in charge of recalculating where these missiles go, right? And it's the most bizarre, like he's not doing anything in the shot. He's just looking at a screen. Like, it's such a weird cutaway. And I felt like they just kept using it because they were like, we got to go to a different scene now. What do we, I don't know, cut back to Kovacs. Like, sure. Just a weird editing moment in that movie where they kept cutting to that guy in the little video game room. So anyway, the missiles go into the water, and then we see Largo coming in by helicopter to land on his boat. And of course, there's the logo that we saw on the matchbook cover is on the top of his boat or whatnot. So
fucking everywhere.
So then they send scuba teams down to retrieve the missiles. Largo's, he's got this weird line too, because this is another one of those moments where they superimpose a computer screen as if FaceTime is a thing in 1983, and he's like, put them on ice, in his very Largo German accent that Klaus has. It's like, put them on ice. Then we cut to Blofeld von Sydow speaking to a camera that's inside a skull, by the way, talking to these military leaders of the world, and he basically wants $1 kajillion to avoid...
Basically, yes, he wants to do... It's Dr. Evil. We have these missiles, and we're going to use them to blow them up if you don't give us 25% of your gross national product, which should equal to 11 quadrillion bazillion dollars.
Yeah, or else we will exercise the R in our gigantic...
I love how he has to go out like, we are part of Spectre, and then goes and gives the entire acronym, right?
Right.
We have already enacted 2 of the letters of our acronym, terror and extortion.
Right. And it goes, don't let us go to revenge. And then it shows a shot of his cat, and then it shows a mushroom cloud video. And then cut to chaos in this room where he's speaking to all these military leaders who are now all yelling loudly about how much this is going to cost, and they're all pointing the fingers at the Americans. And this feels very In Like Flint to me.
Yes.
Because there's a moment in Like Flint that is exactly the same thing, where they're like, all these world leaders are losing their minds and they don't know what to do. And of course, the British guy's like, we got to get our man on this,
Right.
So that's when, all this panic and sky-falling talk motivates Lord Ambrose to insist that M reinstate the Double O's to try and tackle this terrible thing that nobody else can. I know. We'll assign this problem to one guy.
One guy. And he did say reactivate the Double O's. Why couldn't we get more than one 00 at this point?
I mean, it's not, technically, especially in 1983, it wasn't an official Bond movie, so why not? Why not, bring in a whole team of 00s to do the thing,
Right.
There's no...
I mean, you brought in Felix as Felix. You could have just as easily brought him or got another actor to bring in 006 or 008 or... The one I've always wanted was 000. Just so people had to say 000. Or do they say 000? I want to know what the official MI6 interpretation of 000 is, right? So.
Well, and then they could make their 000 face.
I'm going to show her my 000 face. Oh. O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Yeah!
And that kind of brings us into Act 2.
All right, so we cut back to MI6 in a bank of computers where we see 007 researching Maximilian Largo completely on his own, by the way, using his little matchbook cover because, flags. I wonder if that's a clue. I better check into it, right?
I better scan it using our 1983 scanner.
Right? But I like that they had to make the point that Bond is computer savvy here.
Well, honestly, this is a very pedestrian moment for Bond.
Yeah.
He might as well be using the microfiche at a library or something.
Yeah. I mean, Bond doesn't do his own research. People bring the research to him.
Right. So it's just kind of a weird little moment for him, but okay, sure.
It's all right. I mean, it shows you another side of Bond you never got to see. Sometimes he does get his hands dirty in the research field. And let's face it, this was all very computer heavy in a lot of things because, that was the thing back in 83. Everything was computerized.
Right.
When it actually wasn't.
Right. Kind of like another technological trend that's happening right now. I couldn't possibly think of what AI type things, thinking, Maybe.
I don't know. But anyway, so Moneypenny comes in and, this is her job, move James from one section to another. So she comes in, sees him working, says, M needs to see you right now. So we cut to from there to Largo. We cut from there to Largo's yacht from the point of view of Largo in his helicopter, who then lands on the pad that, once again, flags. Then he walks into this command center that looks like it's in the middle of a submarine and asks for the day's reports.
Yeah, it's such a weird, just doing my job, just working my office job, it's... Can I get the morning papers? I need my morning papers before I can commit crimes,
Right. Well, and I mean, it's and here's a bunch of thermal paper printout. Good luck reading through it.
Yeah.
But he comes in, he walks in and asks for the day's reports. And then he takes reports into his secret little hidey hole room.
Oh my God, that little hidey hole room. Can we talk about the little hidey hole room for a little bit? What?
Oh, we're going to, because it's going to come back often.
You know what would have made the hidey hole room even better, though, is if he had little sticky notes placed everywhere, all over the walls and shit. Really personalize that thing, because that's clearly where he would hole up in. He would just stay in there. I'm guessing he played video games in there. That's where he developed, where he got good at his fancy video game that you see later on in the movie. This hidey hole is his everything, clearly. He loves going there.
And given the fact that we're going to find out in a few minutes that it rotates, or that a wall rotates away and he can watch Domino doing her sex dance with the instructor, I'm wondering where the tissue box was in his little secret hidey hole.
And the lotion dispenser.
Oh, yeah. That dude was pervy enough that he was totally into that kind of stuff. I bet you he was even getting on like the voice box on there and going like full True Lies, Bend over for me slowly. More slowly. Just like that. I mean, it's so dumb. And that, you know what that means, right? The dance studio is literally right behind the control center of this boat.
And so that means that every time she's in there rehearsing, everybody in the control center has to hear her like funky disco-y porn music, like as they're working, trying to collect reports.
Or they have to listen to, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, okay, back to work now. Back to work. Oh, I got a little on the keyboard.
Oh, God.
Get a tissue.
Oh, God.
It's some kind of weird penthouse letters kind of thing, I'm an evil genius who works from a boat in the Caribbean, and this is my sensual story. I don't know. I'm sorry that my brain went to that point, but by the second viewing of this movie, I couldn't get anything out of my mind but that. So I'm just going to roll with it and share it with all of you. So now it's stuck in your head when you watch it too.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Anyways, we jump back to MI6 and M is filling Bond in on what has happened. The defense minister then comes in and explains that while NATO forces are working to stop an air attack, the worst attack would be in a subterranean area because it would cause a ripple effect across the world's oil-bearing strata. Pay attention, folks. This is what we call foreshadowing in the literary world. M then explains that the missiles have been authorized by eye imprint from the U.S. president. And Bond then suggests that someone could hack the system with a false eye, but M thinks that's the dumbest idea ever.
Why would anybody do that?
Right. Have you never watched a James Bond movie?
Have you never watched your own movie that you're in?
Right. That also had that exact same thing happen?
But, Bond has to be the smartest guy in the room all the time. So even when it's the new penny-pinching M.
Well, I mean, honestly, this is probably, for my money, the most humble and modest James Bond that's ever been on screen.
Probably, yeah. I mean, given all the references to age and what have you.
Well, and I think maybe that it may not have been intentional, but it does kind of come in with Bond. Like I've been around the block a few times. I know you're going to think this is horseshit, but I'm still going to pursue my own course.
Right, exactly. And the fact that he's got some wisdom from being in the field for long enough to know, hey, maybe somebody did actually develop a false eye thing.
Right. It didn't have to be put in somebody's head per se. It just looked cooler to do it that way. But you could have,
right,
with all your fancy computer technology that was clearly 40 years in the future, you could have come up with some sort of a holographic eyeball. The list is up. What happened is in 83 nobody was thinking about holograms. That wasn't until the 90s. So we're gonna just stick it in this dude's eyeball.
Correct.
And give him a fake eye. $6 Million Man style.
It would have been great if they would have used the no.
But then they might have had another lawsuit.
Oh, yeah.
So we cut back to Largo, and we see he's got all these flimsy reports in his control room. We hear some funky tunes coming from the background because apparently he can't soundproof his little room because maybe he wants to hear what's going on. I don't really know. I don't know what his kink is. But anyway, he hears some music going, which prompts him to push a button, and it moves an entire panel away so that he can see into the dance room, which is clearly just behind his room. It's not a monitor, it's glass. It's a two-way mirror. And there he is. She's watching Domino do sex dancing with the dancing coordinator guy. And I got to tell you, just a little bit as an aside here, you could tell that Kim Basinger has some dance training.
Yes.
Because some of the stuff that she's doing is pretty good, but she's not as good as that dance instructor. Boy, that guy is all pa cha cha.
Oh yeah. I mean, that guy was
she looked a little
Fosse.
flimsy. Oh yeah. Fosse, jazz finger. Ba-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-doo.
I also felt like the director, and I know he's a good director and everything, but I kind of got the vibe like he was like, can you do the splits one more time for me? Slower.
Oh, yeah. Slower.
There was slower.
That's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, and why is there a professional dance coordinator teaching her how to dance on the ship?
On the ship? Like, where does he come from? Is he a special issued Spectre dance coordinator, or is he just freelancing for Spectre?
Well, is there supposed to be like some kind of musical review at the Spectre holiday party or something like that? We know they have holiday parties thanks to Telly Savalas. So, maybe she was going to come out in a red sequin gown. She's like, don che da don chandale on bata, anything goes. I don't know.
Or maybe she was going to do a little number at that fundraiser thing that's coming up.
Maybe. Not in that dress, but maybe.
No. So who knows? It is a little. I don't know. It's a weird one.
It's a little saucy for just someone who's dancing to stay in shape. I don't know. But we know what Largo's looking at, so he watches that a little bit and then decides, I'm going to go in and get rid of sexy dance guy because he's making me jealous. So he pops into the dance room because it's literally just down the hall, goes into the dance. Well, actually, they're dancing. He manages to sneak in and get next to the piano, and then he hits a couple of keys in it. And they're like, "Oh shit!" So I don't know. But she comes up. She's very excited to see him.
So excited! Oh my god! Given that she is clearly not crazy in this scene, she's crazy about him, and very quickly she's not crazy about him. In fact, by the end of the scene, she's not crazy about him.
Well, no, because he's like, "I would just cut your throat."
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, not gonna work for me.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the whole thing. So the dance instructor doesn't even get dismissed, right? He just gets up and leaves. He knows where his bread is buttered, right?
Yeah.
So she's sitting there at the piano with him, and they're talking, and he does a little ivory tinkling and stuff like that. It's all very lovey-dovey. You can tell she's really into him. And then he gives her the necklace, which I realize is a map of the area that they're going, but really doesn't seem to have any relevance to the plot at all, other than for Bond to go, "Oh, it looks exactly like this area right over here. This must be the oil fields." Right? It's not like a code. You don't have to put the rock in to make something happen.
Right.
It's really the whole point of it. I don't get it at all, other than for Bond as a device for Bond to figure out the last piece of the puzzle. But there it is, around her neck.
It's not even a proper MacGuffin. Like, they don't even chase after it or anything.
No, it has no relevance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. But it's like, well, what if I leave you? And then they look at each other and are like, but no, seriously, what if I leave you? Oh, that's going to cut your throat, throw you overboard. Fuck off. I'll get another blonde. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. Fine. So he leaves, and Domino's a little like, okay. And then, we cut back to London, back at Q Branch. And I guess it's kind of your granddad's Q Branch, but not exactly.
Yeah.
We get like we cut up to a close up of a large fountain pen with a Union Jack on it.
Interesting.
I wonder what this could possibly be. Right?
Symbolism.
And we follow the pen. Right. It's not a bulldog, everybody, but okay. So we follow the pen over to 007, who's doing target practice and come on, man. He's definitely doing the gun barrel. Every time he shoots at the target, he's doing the gun barrel scene from the back, right? I'm like, we're going to get this fucking thing in somehow.
Right. Except the range that he's shooting in almost feels like a carnival, carnival shoot 'em up range.
Right. Well, it's about testing and being able to hit a moving target at perhaps close range. To be honest, that Walther doesn't have any range. I've never understood why he likes it so much. But, he's out there. He's knocking the ducks down. Ping, ping, ping. And then, whoosh, the pen goes off and blows one up. 007 takes off his proper headgear, turns around, and, hey, you know who it is? It's Algie, not Q. Algie, but it is Q, but Algie.
Algie.
Algie. And he's not even like green stuff that's floating on the surface. He's just algae. But he pops up with a not quite perfected yet. Is anything ever perfected in Q Branch?
Never. It's never in the history of ever has anything been perfected. I mean, the invisible car, even the alligator one-person submarine, I would argue is not a perfected thing. Although that was close, but
it feels like Bond's always taking in something that hasn't been field tested, but typically it works fine.
Indeed.
And I like how the one thing that he wasn't worried about working was the gadget that was built by a Russian defector.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this version of Q in this movie is definitely not your Desmond Llewellyn. We discussed it a little earlier, but there's no antagonism. There's no, pay attention 007. It's just kind of a nebbish little engineering nerd who builds things together and seems to live his life vicariously through the 00 program because he's not the kind of guy who could ever go out in the field.
Absolutely. Right. I was absolutely going to say that. I felt like he thrived on living vicariously through Bond. He's just like, well, I hope we're going to get some gratuitous sex and violence, and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's going on about budget cuts and how he'd love to go work for the CIA because they got money and there's no air conditioning and his allergies are acting up. I mean, he could be that guy from The Simpsons, and we got the thing and we got I got the laser and I got no money and the air conditioning. Nebel, avoid night, eagle. I mean, it's like straight up Jerry Lewis here. They clearly had a mandate. He can't be the Q from the movies.
Right.
So they made him the exact opposite of the Q from the movies.
Right. Right. Instead of being completely bothered and annoyed that Bond's even there, instead he's sort of leaning in and waiting on every word that Bond tells him about, what's going on, like, where are you going? And he just wants to hear everything.
Absolutely. And, so he does ask Bond where he's off to, and Bond tells him off to the Bahamas. And, of course, Algie Q is jealous, just like the rest of us. I don't know. I've never been to the Bahamas, so I can't say if I'm jealous or not, but maybe.
It's kind of half and half for me, honestly. I like Jamaica better. That's just me.
Okay, that's fair. So we jump off to the Bahamas, and now we see Bond walking near the ports, and he starts flirting with this very attractive young woman who's on a fishing boat, wearing a very heavy Bahamas type of environment suit. I mean, he could just come on in a short sleeve shirt and, some like linen pants.
Yeah, no.
Man's got the coat and the tie and the blue shirt.
Yep. He's like, nope, I got to go full suit. I'm just going to swelter and sweat. It's fine. Even though I have quite the fur coat underneath this suit.
Right.
No, I'm going full suit.
It's amazing to me that Connery wasn't like, yes, I think that in this case, James would want to be more comfortable. since he had so much flexibility with it. But I mean, all through all of his older Bond movies, there was comfortable Bond and then there was business Bond, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the man walked around in a blue terry cloth jumper, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, a really awkward one, I might add.
But, I mean, there he is. He's flirting with this very attractive woman in a boat. He's got a six-pack of beer, and you could tell he'd clearly rather be in that boat than going and doing anything else. But as he's trying to, stake his claim, in he comes, Mr. B! Doot, 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 calling across the courtyard that they're in, right?
Right.
And he kind of engages with
Mr. Bond! Mr. Bond!
Exactly. So he comes out and he engages with 007. And, we find out he's from the consulate. He's got his very fancy name. He's talking through his jaw twice, which I didn't think was possible, but he definitely is. And Bond just sort of gives him his marching orders. But in a way, it's sort of like, you're enthusiastic. I've been doing this a long time. I'll humor you. Kind of thing, right?
Right.
So we get basically his job is to be exposition at this point, and we find out from Mr. Bean. I'm just going to call him Mr. Bean. From Mr. Bean, we find out that Largo has the largest boat in the Caribbean and is usually hanging out at Bluebeard Reef doing marine archaeology.
Sure.
Which is just a fancy word for finding a place to put my nuclear bomb in under the water, I guess. I don't know. But he does have a great line where he's like, he's foreign, but charming nonetheless. Right? So,
yeah, you could tell that even Connery looked like he was kind of struggling to hold a straight face when he said that.
Right. Well, let's face it. I mean, Rowan Atkinson was like a comedy god back then in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
So probably he's in the movie because Connery was like, I want this guy in it.
Yeah.
He'll make me laugh the whole time. So, but then Bond replies,
He built a maritime museum and a new wing for the orphanage.
I'm sure he's very kind to his mother.
Don't know his mother.
There was some repartee there, right?
Yeah, just the whole Mr. Bean, like, just not even understanding that Bond is cracking a joke there or being, the delivery is so perfect that it works.
Oh, absolutely. And then, like I said, Bond gives him his marching orders with the instruction to use all available natural cover so that he starts hiding behind pillars as he's heading out back over to the consulate.
Such a great little final scene as he scurries off.
Yes. And the look that Sean Connery does after the fact.
Yeah. It's just interesting that while there's part of me that doesn't want him in this movie, he's also really good when he does show up.
Yeah.
I'm sort of two minds about it.
You know what? Ultimately, he doesn't take anything away from the film.
Yeah.
So as long as he's not glaringly changing it from a Bond film to a Rowan Atkinson film, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
There's always the people that interrupt Bond while he's having sex. There's always the nebbish guy that brings the information. It's fine. Maybe it's a little funnier than we normally get, but it's okay. And I'm sure it probably didn't hurt having him in the movie for overseas stuff. So why not?
Yeah.
So we cut to Bond at the whatever I'm guessing is literally the closest bar that he could find, because after talking with Mr. Bean, clearly needed a drink. So he gets to the bar, he orders his drink, and as he's waiting for the drink to be served to him, we see Fatima Blush flying by on her water ski, doing all sorts of water ski-y antics, most of which looked like Barbara Carrera, so kudos to her.
I was going to say, that looked like all her. She actually knew how to water ski. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, maybe she did. I mean, she wasn't doing stunts or carrying girls on her shoulders or anything, but...
Well, no, but... I mean, she did some interesting things with her swimsuit also.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the director's choice or her choice, but it was a very cheeky scene. How should we say?
You think?
A little cheeky.
To be fair, fine cheeks.
Fine cheeks.
So, she goes flying by. She recognizes him at the bar. He recognizes her from Shrubland. And as she flies by, she gives him a little splash, which I don't see how he got splashed from how far he was.
Oh,
okay.
The water doesn't even come from the right direction.
No, it's clearly right off camera.
Yeah, there's just some guy with a bucket
But, okay, it's fine. So we see her kind of turn around. She gets off the boat, and then she basically flies up the ski launch ramp and right into 007's arms. Aww.
So dumb.
And she's like...
Oh, how reckless of me. I made you all wet.
Yes, but my martini's still dry. My name's James.
Hello, James. I'm Fatima Blush.
That's my favorite line in the movie right there. Because he does it so off the cuff. Yes, my martini's still dry. And it's just like that. That's a Bond line.
And that is literally he is the only man in the world that can pull that line off without it sounding cheesy or cornball.
Yes.
He actually pulls it off.
Raj couldn't have done that. I think maybe Timmy Tim could have, but definitely not Pierce. And boy, that would not have been in Danny's wheelhouse at all. Although that's not true. I guess Danny would have just been so sarcastic. He would have been like, "Yes, but my martini's still dry." I mean, it had no humor in it at all. It would literally been his own little joke in his own head.
Yeah. Well, Danny would have been like, "Well, I'm not saying that line."
Pretty much. We never know because it would never get past him.
Right.
That's hilarious. So anyway, they chit-chat for a little bit, and Fatima invites him to her boat to go fishing because he tells her he's there to go fishing for whatever he can catch. So we cut to the boat, and Fatima calls him to come down on the growler system that's on the boat. And for a minute, and I'm going to say I think it's because of the hat he was wearing, I thought it was Captain Katanga from Raiders of the Lost Ark driving the boat. But I I realized a few minutes later when they call the sharks on him and we get that full, it's not him. But I'm like, oh, that would be just another thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But it was not Captain Katanga. Maybe it was Captain Katanga's kid and that was his hat from the 30s. I don't know. So she calls him down below deck. And here's what I don't understand. If they're going fishing, why did they need to go scuba diving?
Yeah, I know. It's just, I mean, I'm sure it's just a means to an end as far as the dialogue goes. You know, they probably just set it up as fishing so they could do a play on words for like whatever I can catch. And
Right.
It's just all of that, even though I think the viewer just has to go, oh, well, they're going scuba diving because they have to advance the plot forward now.
Absolutely. Again, one of those don't think about it too hard moments, right?
Right.
So she calls them downstairs. They're down in kind of the stock room, as it were, of the ship. She gives him a wetsuit and then starts flirty talking as he literally takes off everything he's wearing because you got that last pants are off. Here come the skivvies to try the wetsuit on.
Yep.
And she's like, but we have time. And she pulls down the one strap of, I'm not sure what the one strap was supposed to do other than stay within the PG rating that they had. But,
right.
You know, and here's something. We have the fish fucking scene where they're not actually fucking fish, but they're fucking in between interstitials with fish. And here's the thing. I can't think of another James Bond movie up until Danny Boy where you actually saw Bond having sex.
Yeah, where there's actual positions going on.
Right.
And on that note, so last night I was watching this movie and my wife is sitting next to me. And there's this moment where you see Fatima, you know, like in the hall, in the doorway, basically. She her body lays back down or something. And then she sort of pulled back out of frame again. And my wife goes, what position even was that?
It was fuckfish.
It was fuckfish position? Okay,
it was
sure.
a fuckfish position. You'll find it on page 73 of the Kama Sutra.
Of course. How silly of me.
And of course, at the very end, they end up sliding like they hit a swell or something and came back down and they just slide out of frame together.
And then, and of course, they do a match cut to take them into the water.
Right. That was 100% Irvin Kershner going, I got something I think we could do here. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I got an idea right here.
Good job, Irv. Good job.
My one clever contribution.
Exactly. Other than hiring the guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark to be the heavy.
Right.
By the way, that's my very, very bad Irvin Kershner impression, but he does kind of sound like that. Anyway, so yes, they smash cut to them in the water diving. And so they're just sort of tooling about the ocean, la la la, la la la. And as they're doing it, Fatima puts a little beeper thing on his tank that James is completely unaware of.
Because as we know, James Bond is completely oblivious when somebody putting a beeper on his tank that magnetizes to it.
Right. He didn't hear a clink. He didn't feel a vibration. He was in the groove on the dive, man.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
You just get into it, man.
Yeah, you're totally into it, dude. So they swim into this wreck. Bond is going inside the wreck, and Fatima just sort of swims off to the side and sends a signal to the captain on the boat who starts pushing buttons on this biddly bop dee dee dop thing that's inside the boat, which sends out like a little pingy signal. And next thing you know, sharks!
Not just any sharks, Jason. Sharks not with frickin' lasers, but with frickin' antennas on them.
Sharks with frickin' antenna boxes on their dorsal fins. Yeah. Yeah. And when that first shark comes swimming in, I just thought it was a pilot fish. I didn't realize it was an antenna until, he got to the part where he takes the antenna off the shark, right?
Yeah.
And here's also something else. I meant to wait until the end to see if the ASPCA had been involved in this. The little thing at the bottom of the credits that says no animals were harmed during this motion picture. I didn't. But man, they beat the shit out of those sharks.
Yes.
I'm going to go right out and say they got them crashing through windows.
Well, and here's the thing. Did you know that this movie is actually the reason why they put that message at the end of movies now with the ASPCA. Like the horse jumping scene, when they jump the horse off the castle into the water, that scene upset so many people in Britain that they ended up setting a precedent where going forward, all movies had to have that ASPCA no animals were harmed thing. This is the movie that actually did that, which
interesting.
I can tell that there were some questionable things going on with animals in this movie, big time.
Oh yeah, the horse one was pretty egregious. I was saving that for its own little topic towards the end, but I mean, they clobber a shark with a boat mast.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not a good look at all.
No.
For me, beyond everything else, it's probably the biggest eyesore of this movie, actually.
Yeah, but at least when you go from Goldfinger to this, that's what, about 20 some odd years?
Yeah.
You go from the worst thing being James Bond being a rapist to him being a shark mauler. I mean, I guess that's an improvement.
I suppose so. And I suppose this is at least, sort of self-defense, I guess. Granted, it still doesn't change the fact that that's what happened to a shark during filming.
Right, or to the horse during filming when we get to that point. But I digress.
Yeah. Yes.
So the sharks are attacking. Bond is swimming, sharky. And eventually Bond figures out, well, maybe I've got something attached to my air tank that's causing all the problems. After he sees the antenna on the clobbered shark, and he takes the thing and he takes it off, and he's like, oh, I guess that was the thing. And then he tosses it down into the boat. But along the way, the shark goes into the boat and cuts his airline with that one sharp tooth, man. All of a sudden, Bond can't breathe anymore. Also, come on, Fatima Blush. Why don't you wait to make sure they eat him before you go swimming back to your ship? Most incompetent hench person ever.
This is in the era of the quintessential Bond villain who doesn't wait to see if Bond actually dies. It's just part of the rigueur,
Right. No, you're not wrong, but it's so dumb because all she had to do was just hang out. Sharks weren't going to do anything to her.
Right. She could just sit and watch.
She's back on her boat with Captain Katanga's grandkid. And Bond has to, just takes a good pull off the air coming out of his tank and then just does the swim up to the top, which amazingly happens to be, he sees a little lure dangling from the top and he's like, I wonder what that is. And sure enough, turns out to be the attractive woman with the fishing pole on her fishing boat doing some fishing. And what's the line in there? He's like, well,
you did see I'd catch you later.
Yeah, exactly. The best part of that is the scene that comes up when we're back on land and Bond's wearing her overalls, which would never fit him, and she's back in her red bikini again.
I mean, she is tall, but at the same time, like, he's so much bigger than her.
Width-wise.
That thing would fit.
Yeah.
It's also just the least Bondy looking thing that I've ever seen in a Bond movie.
James Bond in Oshkosh.
Everybody complains about Bond dressed as a clown in Octopussy. I would beg to differ and say that this is actually far less Bondian than being dressed incognito as a clown so that you can achieve a goal.
No, I agree. So yeah, overalls aside, we see Fatima kind of dancing, everybody kind of having a party where she's at, blah, blah, blah.
Also, why? Why is she dancing? Why? Like, it's so random that she just...
Because she's nuts.
Okay. All right, fair. That's fair.
I think we've established she's a little crazy. She left Bond to get eaten by the sharks because she needed to get back up so she could dance, because she's feeling it in her blood. She needed to dance.
You know how, like, dogs get the zoomies? It's that. It's just Fatima gets the zoomies and she has to dance.
Fatima zoomies. You got to say it like Kermit the Frog. Fatima zoomies. But, so she does her little dancey thing. She hurries off. And then when we see her again in yet another outfit, she's at Bond's hotel where we see her. She sneaks into his room, somehow can get into his room, I'm assuming by picking a lock.
Yes.
And then she sticks a bomb under his bed right next to his shoes. Now, if he's reaching for his shoes, don't you think he's going to feel the bomb?
She couldn't find any other place in the room to put it. Let's just put it right there.
An entire rectangle, like, oh, here's where he put his shoes. He sleeps on the other side. Maybe I should put it over there so he won't find it. Because there was enough C4 on that charge to eliminate the entire bed and half of the damn room for that matter. But no, I would just put it right here because it is the easiest thing.
Literally the worst hench person on earth.
I mean, Jaws was not bright, but he was more effective, that's for sure.
Indeed.
But she puts the bomb under the bed, and then that's when we get to see Bond come in with Fishing Girl, still in his overalls, asking for his room key, asking for her room key. They both check in, then we cut to them doing the bow chicka wow wow. And as they're doing the bow chicka wow wow, the phone rings. And of course, it's Mr. Bean interrupting, telling him, Largo's boat's now headed to the south of France, and, blah, blah, blah. Then instead of just hanging up on him, Bond sticks him in the the receiver in the champagne ice bucket so he can keep talking and talking.
Yeah, I love how he's like, well, what'd be great is we could have lunch. and Bond's like, yeah, sure. Anyway, dunk.
Exactly. So then the bomb goes off, and it's in Bond's room, not in hers. So there's a little bit of suspense that nobody, I think, even bought into from a suspense standpoint, because she's been inept this whole time. Why would she possibly be any better? Well, I guess we made the right choice. What choice is that? To come to your room. Right?
Right.
So, oh my gosh. I wasn't a fan of that particular scene, I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah. It really
felt like it was placed in there for humor and not for tension.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those moments where they take it just a bit too far, like into the comedy bit without having any sort of bearing on how the rest of the everything plays out.
And so, dear listeners, we bring you to what should be the conclusion of this review, but the way things are going, I think you could all tell we're probably going to have to go to a part 2 on this one, and so we are!
Indeed, indeed.
It was unavoidable, and I think it's actually starting to lay some actual credence to the possibility that this might, in fact, be a real James Bond movie.
Indeed, indeed. But as always, if you do have thoughts about whether or not this is reaching the conclusion, which seemingly is already there, about the validity of this as an official James Bond movie, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We have so many outlets to get in touch. On email at cicdeaddrop@gmail.com, on Instagram at Central Intelligence Cinema, separated by underscores, and there's a whole slew of other ones that you can find at the bottom of the show description of every episode. But please get in touch. Let us know, hey, why are you going so long over a movie like this? But we'll probably still keep doing what we always do.
Because at the end of the day, while we enjoy entertaining our tens of listeners, we're doing it for us. You guys got to know that by now.
We're really just entertaining ourselves.
Yeah, the entire goal is to make us laugh and then send it out to you guys. So,
and hope that you do as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jason, should we get out of here for now?
Yeah, I think we should. They've listened enough.
All right. Well, with that, I'm Ben.
And I'm Jason.
And the CIC will return with more missions, more martinis,
and more mayhem.